They ignored him until ignoring him destroyed them. He was invisible. Now entire companies fear his name. This isn't a success story, it's a warning. From nobody to nightmare, this is how revenge really works. They laughed at the quiet guy. Then everything collapsed. In a city that rewarded noise and ignored silence, Henry was invisible. Not misunderstood, not underestimated, just unseen. He worked nights at a logistics warehouse on the edge of the city, moving boxes that carried other people's futures. His uniform smelled of dust and oil. His name badge was scratched, the letters fading. Supervisors forgot him. Coworkers talked over him. Management never learned his face. Henry didn't complain. Complaints required an audience. He went home to a narrow room with a single window facing a brick wall. His father had died years earlier after a factory accident that earned the company a settlement and the family nothing. His mother lived with quiet dignity, cooking simple meals, never asking for more. Henry paid bills on time and dreams in secret. At 24, he was a nobody, and the world treated him like one. At the warehouse, jokes floated like smoke. "Hey, Ghost," someone called when Henry passed. "Does he even talk?" Another laughed. "People like him are built to blend into boxes." Henry heard it all. He said nothing, because silence was safer than being mocked for speaking. The moment that changed everything came during a team meeting. A shipment had gone missing, an expensive one. Managers barked, fingers pointed, tension filled the room. Henry knew exactly where the error had occurred. He had seen the system glitch. He had flagged it in a report no one read. He raised his hand. The room went quiet, not with respect, but surprise. "Yes," the manager said, annoyed. Henry explained the issue clearly, calmly, precisely. Laughter erupted. "You?" the manager scoffed. "You don't even have clearance to understand this system." Another supervisor waved him off. "Stick to lifting boxes." The meeting moved on. That shipment cost the company millions. Henry was written up for disrupting workflow. That night, something inside him hardened. Not anger, something colder. He realized invisibility wasn't protection, it was a cage. And cages were meant to be broken. Henry didn't quit, not yet. He watched, listened, learned. He studied the systems the company relied on, logistics software, supply chains, vendor contracts. He learned how inefficiency hid behind arrogance, how executives trusted dashboards they didn't understand, how small errors multiplied into massive losses. At night, he studied harder. Operations, finance, risk modeling, negotiation. He didn't want to be successful. He wanted to be dangerous. Months passed, then a year. The warehouse promoted louder men with weaker skills. Henry remained unseen, perfect camouflage. Then the city changed. Supply chains fractured, costs spiked, companies panicked. Henry moved. He launched a consulting service under a neutral name. No personal branding, no face, just results. He targeted mid-sized firms bleeding money but too proud to admit it. He offered one thing: control. His first client doubted him until profits stabilized within weeks. The second doubled efficiency. The third fired their bloated consultants and kept iron. Word spread quietly. Henry didn't advertise, he let outcomes speak. Money followed, but he didn't spend it, he built. He hired analysts with sharp minds and quiet egos. He invested in systems that learned faster than humans. He trained his team to think like predators, patient, precise, invisible until it was too late. 3 years later, Henry's firm was a whisper in boardrooms. 5 years later, it was a threat. Companies didn't know who he was, but they knew what happened when they ignored him. The revenge wasn't loud, it was systemic. The warehouse where Henry once worked began losing contracts, delays mounted, costs soared. Executives blamed workers quit, chaos spread. They hired consultants. Many failed. Then someone suggested a name: Henry. The meeting was scheduled in a glass tower downtown. Henry walked in wearing a tailored suit, posture calm, expression unreadable. Executives shuffled papers, uneasy. One of them squinted. "You look familiar." Henry nodded politely. "We've met." They didn't remember. That hurt more than any insult ever had. He presented the diagnosis in minutes. "You have cultural arrogance," he said evenly. "Your systems punish accuracy and reward noise. You ignore warnings from people you consider invisible." Silence. This was the moment they made the biggest mistake. What he did next changed the entire city. They thought he was harmless. The revenge wasn't loud. It was irreversible. By the time they noticed him, it was already too late. He outlined the fixes, brutal ones: layoffs, restructuring, accountability. The CEO cleared his throat. "Can you guarantee results?" Henry met his eyes. "If you do exactly what I say." They agreed. The changes were surgical. Managers were removed, processes rewritten, metrics rebuilt. Losses stopped, profits returned. The warehouse survived. Barely. On the final day of the contract, the CEO thanked Henry publicly. "We couldn't have done this without you." Henry nodded. Then he said, "You could have. You chose not to listen." He left without shaking hands. That was when the city started to fear him. Henry's firm expanded into acquisitions. He bought struggling companies cheap, rebuilt them ruthlessly, and sold them for profit, or kept them as leverage. He never appeared in magazines, rarely gave interviews. His name surfaced only when things went wrong. Executives joked about it nervously. "If Henry's involved, we're in trouble." He became a nightmare not because he was cruel, but because he was inevitable. Then came the public reckoning. A major corporation collapsed after ignoring repeated warnings Ion's firm had sent months earlier. Investigations followed. Emails surfaced. Whistleblowers spoke. The board scrambled. They invited Henry to testify as an expert. The hearing was televised. For the first time, the city saw his face, calm, focused, unapologetic. A reporter asked, "Why didn't you warn them more loudly?" Henry answered without hesitation. "I did," he said. They laughed. The clip went viral. People dug into his past, the warehouse job, the write-up, the ignored report. Public opinion shifted from curiosity to awe, from awe to fear. Henry became a reference point, a lesson taught in business schools and whispered in corridors. Don't ignore the quiet ones. Don't laugh at the invisible. Years later, Henry stood on the balcony of his mother's new home overlooking the city. She handed him tea, smiling softly. "You work too much," she said. Henry looked out at the skyline, the towers, the lights, the systems he understood better than anyone. "They don't see me anymore," he said. She nodded. "Is that what you wanted?" Henry thought about the warehouse, the meeting, the laughter. "No," he replied. "I wanted them to listen." Down below, the city hummed, efficient, fragile, dependent. Henry had started as nobody. Now, when he moved, entire systems trembled, and that made him the nightmare they never saw coming. The moral of the story is, the most dangerous people don't announce themselves. They didn't see him coming, and that was the problem. Never underestimate the one who stays quiet. Power doesn't shout, it waits. Remember this when they treat you like nobody.